So today, folks, we're going to be talking about how actually more evidence is coming up that we are definitely getting a Nintendo Direct next month. And I know using the word definite means like this is a 100% for sure thing happening. Look, obviously this is all rumors. It's just evidence to support the rumors. But we got to admit that, Nintendo's in this precarious situation where some consumers, and I don't even want to say all, I think a majority of people that bought a Switch 2 or have interest in a Switch 2 aren't sitting here waiting on bated breath for Metroid Prime 4's release date and aren't waiting for that next Nintendo Direct. I mean, only the hardcore fans are really the ones paying attention to these Directs and really like clamoring for release dates for things. But we are one of those hardcore fans, right? I am running a Nintendo YouTube channel for a living where you guys sit here and watch and listen. So yeah, I think that we are the exact audience that cares about this. So that's why we're going to go into the evidence for these Directs happening next month. And yes, you heard that correct. Plural Directs. And before we dive into that, I want to remind you, we are on our road to 160,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying the content, I would appreciate if you would subscribe. We also have a giveaway going on for 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. All you have to do is be 18 or older to enter. You can enter through the link down on the pinned comment or the description. We'll be drawing the winner sometime in November before the game comes out. So stay tuned for that. Remember, it comes out on November 20th, right before Black Friday. What a nice little holiday surprise it could be if you end up winning one of those copies. We might launch other giveaways if Nintendo has other games going on. So we might have more than one giveaway going on at once is what I'm saying. Like Legend ZA, I plan to give away some copies of that in October, but we're not there. So for now, 5 copies, Kirby Air Riders. All right, let's go ahead and get into this video. So first, we got to start by recapping what the hell's going on with what we've already talked about to date about Directs happening next month. And so when we talk about that, there's 3 supposed Nintendo Directs coming. This is rumored. 2 of them are for sure next month. Again, according to the rumors, one is a 40th Mario Anniversary Direct, and another is a general Nintendo Direct. And the last one is supposedly going to get announced in the general Direct for Metroid Prime 4. So Metroid Prime 4 would get its own Direct. Don't really know if that's next month, but they would announce it in that Direct. And they would also give us the Metroid Prime 4 release date. Now, all of this comes from Nash Weedle, of course, and some people are skeptical of Nash Weedle, and I get it. You should really be skeptical of any rumor, no matter who the source is. That being said, Nash Weedle has had some stuff happen recently that just increased his resume, and we're going to kind of recap all the things he's been right about in 2025 because it seems to keep happening. So Nash Weedle was right yet again just this week. He teased that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle would be getting announced for Switch 2, something he said was happening all the way back on June 1st of this year. He's been doing this actually a lot lately in 2025. He teased Switch 2 editions before they were announced, said Elden Ring was coming to Switch 2, that the Switch 2 edition of No Man's Sky would actually be a free update, that Metroid Prime 4 would have mouse controls, that the Switch 2 Direct would feature Donkey Kong, a 3D one in particular, instead of 3D Mario, and that there would be a Direct in the final week of July. Now, that's actually kind of crazy, and friend of the channel, On Just Restart, has actually been tracking all of this, so shout out to him, as it actually saved me a ton of time on researching his back date of all these rumors. Now, I do want to note, there's got other rumors out there. There's one out there, like the very first game from Microsoft that's supposed to release, not be announced, but release, is Sea of Thieves. That has not been announced yet, so we'll wait and see on that front. But I just want to note out there that, his one being right about the Direct end of July, he had 5 different sources for a Direct in July. 3 of them for like week 2, 2 of them were for the final week. So there's a little caveat with him being right about that Direct in July, that we did get that partner showcase on July 31st. Now, that doesn't stop there because, hey, one source is whatever. We actually have 3 sources when it comes to rumors for Directs happening next month. Next up is friend of the channel, Attack the Backlog. He has a source, and at least one, that seems fairly accurate. He talked all the way back on June 11th that he had a source who said a Direct was happening in July during the final week. In fact, he grew so confident in this that a week before the Direct happened, he had a stream set up to live react to it on the exact day that it was happening, even nailing down the exact time the Direct would take place. This is notable because he's also partially corroborating multiple Nintendo events happening next month, and he actually came on our podcast to initially say that. That's crazy, and that includes a general Nintendo Direct. Now, that's source number 2 for something happening next month. Now we got to get to good old Zach from Switchforce, man. So, Switchforce has also had at least one reliable source because he was not only correct about a direct in the final week of July, which by the time he actually said we were going to get it, others had already come forward, such as the aforementioned Nash Weedle and Attack the Backlog, and yes, the most trusted insider around in Nate the Hate. But the following week, he was saying an Indie World was happening that week as part of a 3-phase presentation plan. He, of course, ended up right, as we know, and actually was the lone source on that event happening. This is notable because he has said a general direct is coming as well in September. The latest from him on this is actually that it's sooner than you think and on a day you wouldn't anticipate. Of course, I haven't seen the direct isn't this month, given all the demo festivities going on and the fact there's only 1 week left. So next month seems most likely, but Nintendo almost always does directs in September. So I'm not too sure on his sooner than you think remark. Unless you're someone not expecting anything at all until next year. And yeah, I've actually seen people legitimately think that and parrot that online, that there's no general direct happening until 2026. That could be true, but that's obviously just an opinion, so we'll see. The last part, though, that he said is interesting. The expected days for a direct are Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday. Nintendo doesn't typically do them on Mondays because they're just coming off the weekend, nor Fridays, as halfway through Friday, Japan has already hit Saturday. Of the days a direct usually happens, Tuesday is basically the least likely date for a general direct. So I suppose if you always anticipate Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Tuesday fits the mark. Either way, Switchforce has promised to give more information on all of this soon enough, potentially next week. We'll have to wait and see. And that kind of recaps everything we know. Now, that's all the stuff we already talked about. We've gone over this stuff in multiple videos, but really, there's other additional evidence that suggests there has to be something happening next month. Let's start with Kirby Air Riders. Kirby Air Riders is a game that had its own dedicated direct, the third dedicated game direct of the year. There could be more. A rumored Metroid Prime 4 one, maybe even one for Age of Imprisonment. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe even Pokemon Legends EA gets one. That'll be fun. But what really matters here is that Kirby Air Riders isn't coming out until the 20th of November. It is actually slated to come out that same week as Black Friday, making it the big holiday title. And I got to air quote holiday title because Nintendo usually has a treasure trove of like 3 games, Legends EA being among them, for like holiday titles. So I just want to note that it's not the only holiday title, but it's just the title that drops before Black Friday here in particular in the United States. But Nintendo usually considers any game in October, November, and December to be holiday titles. So, okay. So just note that when I say holiday title, I'm just specifically talking about Black Friday week. That being said, that is where that game is positioned. And this is notable because we all thought, and we includes me, that it was coming out in September. We literally thought Kirby Air Riders was a lock for September with a dedicated direct now, because it's a little, doing a dedicated direct now for something in November seems a little early, don't you think? But not for Nintendo, not for Sakurai. They decided they were going to do that now, blow the game out, and yeah, it's coming in November. Now, in that direct, Sakurai did note that there would be more information soon on Kirby Air Riders, suggesting that there are things hidden, and some people feel like they figured out that maybe there's a story mode and maybe a hidden character. I actually don't know on the story mode stuff. I've seen some of the arguments, but definitely looks like he's teasing a hidden character. Either way, there seems to be even more information on this game we don't know, in a game that already looks pretty content-packed for what it is. So that's cool. So he's already teasing there's supposed to be more information soon, which, of course, the marketing's only really just begun for Kirby Air Riders. If it's coming out November 20th, there's going to be more information revealed before then. So, okay, cool. That could mean a Nintendo Direct, but also the fact it's not in September means that Nintendo is likely still not announced the game for September. Now, it would feel weird going into September not knowing what the September game is actually going to be. Or at least I would say that if it wasn't for the 40th anniversary of Super Mario. Remember, that is one of the rumored directs to happen next month. And if you go all the way back to 2020, they announced Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and that was the big game for September, and it came out 2 weeks later. So assuming there's actually an early direct in September, and it's not the general, but it's actually the 40th anniversary direct, Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe there's some sort of Mario game coming out next month that they're not going to give us a lot of headway to for releasing, both probably, maybe even two of them, maybe one for Switch 1 and one for Switch 2. Or maybe it's just something like Galaxy 2 Remastered, which is already rumored, and there's a Switch 1 version with a Switch 2 edition. Either way, it would kind of seem likely that if we don't have a game slated for September, when Nintendo loves having games in September, then yeah, maybe that's because there's a surprise game being announced super early in the month at something like a 40th anniversary of Mario. And again, they've done this before, meaning that this, could actually be an expectation. Now, the other thing is something that Andres Restart brought up in basically a very similar video to this one. And you know what? I'm going to let him talk about it because this has to do with the idea that Nintendo likes to release games around the Halloween date, even if another game already came out in October. This is important to note because there's another certain game that feels like it could slot right into that mark, especially if some sort of hidden Mario game is the September game. So Andres Restart, why don't you let people know what the hell does Nintendo do with those release slates of games during October?
So if we're getting Pokemon Legends ZA on October 16th and we're getting Kirby Air Riders more than a month later on November 20th, there is room to have another game in the middle there. And that game, at this point, I'm thinking, kind of has to be Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And if you look throughout the entire Switch era, you'll notice that Nintendo really likes to put out a major game, in either the last week of October or the first week of November. Going back to 2017, we had Mario Odyssey, and then a week before that it was Fire Emblem Warriors, so they don't mind putting out games in quick succession. But then we move over to 2019 because they didn't do it for 2018. But in 2019, for Halloween, they had Luigi's Mansion 3, and a couple weeks before that, it was Ring Fit Adventure, kind of similar to what's happening maybe this year, I would say. And then a couple weeks later was Pokemon Sword and Shield. But then in 2020, they had another Halloween game in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. 2021, another Halloween game in Mario Party Superstars. 2022, another Halloween game or Halloween week game in Bayonetta 3. In 2023, WarioWare Move It came out a couple weeks after Mario Wonder in October in the first week of November. And then in 2024, just last year, Nintendo made sure to put out Mario & Luigi Brothership in that first week of November, just a few weeks after the release of Mario Party Jamboree in October, which falls on October 16th, which is when Legends ZA is coming out this year. So, point is, most years, Nintendo puts out a game, if not in the week of Halloween, the week after for the first week of November, still some time before Black Friday.
All right, so you can see for many years now, and I guess you can argue 2024 is a little exception because it was the week after Halloween, but you can see Nintendo likes to have a game in that slot, either like first week of November or last week of October, regardless of what else released in October. And Pokemon Legends ZA is slated on the 16th, leaving that slot open. Now, again, Nintendo is one to break traditions, and they don't always follow the rules. And, maybe Metroid Prime 4 is more like a December game. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 is next month for all we know. But it kind of would make sense to me that Legends ZA and Metroid Prime 4, both Switch 1 games with Switch 2 versions, would actually come out in the same month. One, because I don't think Pokemon cannibalizes Metroid. And two, having Metroid come out a couple weeks after Pokemon means there's already an increased install base of Switch 2 because Pokemon Legends ZA is actually bundled in, not with Switch 1, but with Switch 2. They are bundling Legends ZA with Switch 2, which is assuredly going to create a boost in sales in October. And on the back of that, if you got all this momentum from Pokemon, dropping another game a couple weeks later could actually make a lot of sense and get increased sales, potentially for Metroid heading into that holiday period. So that is obviously a massive theory I want to throw out to Andres Restart. He actually touted this on our podcast as well. He is a special guest on our last episode. Man, our podcast seems to be getting all sorts of little scoops and theories and ideas, whether it's Tap the Backlog. We actually also had another one happen this last week. We had Kiwi Talks on, who's interviewed a bunch of developers, and he basically, Thunderstash asked him about a Fallout game coming to Switch 2, like, hey, is there anything happening with Fallout in Switch 2? And Kiwi Talk said, yeah, he won't tell us what game it is, whether it's Fallout 4, 1, 2, 3, he's not giving us like any details on it, but yes, something Fallout is apparently coming to Switch 2. Again, another rumor. I think you guys gotta start watching our Nintendo podcast. We keep having these little things happen like every other episode. It's kind of crazy, so we'll see. But what I actually want to focus in on is the fact that there's going to be a direct next month, I firmly believe it at this point. Now, I could be disappointed. I could be let down. And maybe Nintendo has no events the rest of the year. They just drop things on Nintendo today. But the way they've been handling their marketing seems pretty clear this year. They are doing dedicated directs for each major game. And, that could maybe deter you from thinking a general direct is coming, because maybe the next direct is for Metro Prime 4, then a direct for, Age of Imprisonment or something like that. Maybe Splatoon Raiders is in this year, so maybe there's a direct for that. But I kind of feel like Nintendo knows that just because you have individual game directs doesn't mean you shouldn't have a general. A general direct isn't just about now, it's about the future. And once you get to September, October, November, you really got to start teasing stuff for 2026 to keep people who just got a brand new Switch 2 over the holidays excited about what's to come. Now, we know about Dustbloods and Tamagotchi Life, and we know about Indiana Jones now, but what we don't know about is anything made by Nintendo for Switch 2 specifically next year. And I feel like they have to have a direct, if nothing else, to tease one or two, but at least one of those games to at least tide us over until an expected and typical February direct. So we hope. Again, patterns are different. Nintendo's doing things differently. We're getting more directs seemingly than ever this year, both individual, partner, indie, generals. We had a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 direct within a week of each other. Absolutely crazy. So anything's on the table at this point, but I just kind of feel like the evidence is piling up that there definitely seems to be something coming next month. I just don't see how we get through all this demo period with Gamescom, PAX West, and the FanFest in Canada, and then we get to September, and then it's just crickets, and we hear nothing until things start ramping up for Pokemon Legends EA. Does that even make sense? Think about it. This month, you had Dragon Drive and DLC for Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and you think between this month and the end of next month, there's just going to be crickets? I mean, I guess you could argue, well, we had the Kirby Air Riders one. Yeah, but that's all the way in November. Like, do we really think Nintendo's just going to be silent until we start advertising Pokemon Legends EA? I don't think so. I think Nintendo's clearly got a game plan, and, as I've said in the past, and I sang this once on a video, and I guess I'll end this video singing it again. Wake me up when September ends. Yeah. Wake me the hell up when September ends, because I bet you there's a lot of exciting things that happen next month. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Huge shout out to a friend of the channel, Andres Restart, who basically made a very similar video yesterday, but it really just inspired me to want to make a video on my channel as well and talk about all this stuff. Go check out his stuff. He makes excellent videos, excellent content. He's a full-time YouTuber as well, so you can go ahead and support him by subscribing to his channel as well. And yeah. Next week, we have a podcast coming up on Wednesday. I just want to let you guys know that while we do have special guests and all this for next week, it's going to be a shorter podcast. Our podcast is usually about 4 hours. We're going to be cutting that in half because we have to travel the next day for PAX West. It's a travel day on Thursday, so probably don't expect a video unless I already pre-recorded one for Thursday. But there won't be a stream on Thursday either because we're traveling. So reality is, hopping on a plane, all of us are traveling at different times, the whole podcast crew. But I can say, for the show next week, we are going to talk about PAX West, and we are going to tease some of the stuff we know we're going hands-on with and some of the content we're planning around it. We've actually went over some of it, but not all of it. Things keep developing. We have more and more stuff. Some stuff we can talk about. Some stuff we kind of can't talk about. NDAs and all that. But that's the exciting part of going there and going hands-on. So I can tell you right now, at least at my channel, what you can expect is some impression and preview videos of a bunch of games coming to Switch 2, because that's what my channel is about. We talk about the news, and if the news is directly from me based on my own hands-on impressions, what better direct news is there than that? I don't know whether you guys are going to care about those videos, but I am going to be making one for pretty much every game I play that's coming to Switch 2. And you already know what some of them are. We've seen it this week with like Elden Ring and Borderlands 4, but there's going to be some others as well. So I hope you guys look forward to that. Because I'm also, one of my big goals is to try to get like actual good footage. It's to the point that I'm so disappointed in the footage I'm seeing that I might not use my phone. I might have a phone recording, but I might actually set up my camera as well, because I'm really disappointed. I'm not blaming anyone, but it really, really feels like the media outlets and everything are letting people down with giving us good looks at these games. And I know sometimes you can't always do direct capture, but even off TV play, there's ways to get good footage. So yeah, expect me to maybe go the extra mile there, because I'm a little upset right now with how this is playing out. But that's just me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next video.